So we're going to go ahead and touch a little bit. Today, I start this podcast out talking about getting serious about life and a fighter's perspective of what that means. This is a complicated topic for me because there are so many things in life that cause people to react the way that they do. What I mean by that is each individual person is this conglomerate, this ball, this chunk of habits. And I think that a lot of the times these habits aren't intentionally made, and it becomes kind of scary for people to make intentional habits because they don't have any evidence in their life that they could do this well. So there becomes this fear that individuals get that causes this kind of this safety pump, this pump of the brakes that creates a bit of an issue. So I'm going to ask, when I talk about this as you're listening, I'm going to ask first, what is life? And I think that that's an incredibly hard question that I don't have the answer for. I have an opinion for, and hopefully you have an opinion for as well. That is self-serving, that serves you well, and that will help you to accomplish some stuff that you're trying to accomplish in life. What are we here for? These are two questions that I think over the ages people have looked for answers of it, but we have nothing behind us to base these on. And you can get a dark enough attitude where you end up looking at the world and saying nothing matters. And if you think too deep into it, I believe that nothing does matter. So it's real important that you don't think too deep where you fall down a rabbit hole in this. But where I think that we can take what is life and what are you here for is break it down into what is your identity. And I find what is your identity to be easier for people to answer than, let's say, who are you? I think who are you is something people really struggle with. They'll say something to me like, oh, I'm a data entry specialist. And God, I hope not. I hope that's not who you are, is just this person that's waiting for some technology to come in and replace you. I hope that there's more to you than that. So I find that it's incredibly difficult for people to answer that question, who are you? So let's just say, what is your identity? And we'll start there. And here's one of the first things that I ask people. Let's talk about what is your identity right now. If you were to die today, what would you be remembered for? Would you be remembered for trying to build yourself, trying to hold down others, hiding? They're just going to say on your tombstone, like, man, this guy was safe. He did safe stuff, and he died with 25% more money in his bank account than the national average. What is it that they're going to, what is it, the perception that other people have of you, I think is oftentimes pretty true to your identity. And there's going to be truths, and there's going to be exaggerations, and there's going to be falsifications occurring inside of this. So you have to weed through that stuff in your own head. In this identity crisis that I think that we're facing today in what people are trying to accomplish in life and their dissatisfaction with life, I think comes from a couple of things. I think life has gotten so easy that we can really sit back and think about the unimportant things and then ponder those and then pine on them. What I mean by that, if you were hungry, you would know what the meaning of life is. There wouldn't be any confusion on the meaning of life. So the meaning of life would become, how do we get that next meal? So since we as a society have pretty much gotten through all that, we have to ask, what is the meaning of life now? So here's where I'm going to take you guys. You're going to choosing a direction in life. When I have people walk into the gym and they want to choose the direction that they want to go in life, oftentimes it's based around, I want to do this, but more importantly, I want to be safe, and I want to find safety in everything that I do. And so their parents are screaming, be safe. Their grandparents are screaming, be safe. Their friends are screaming, be safe. and everybody's screaming, be safe, and it's creating some significant issues in what people want to do. So they more often than not will choose the path of being safe, and later in life, with a tremendous amount of regret for a majority of people, they'll look back and wonder what they could have been. And I think that's a horrible feeling. I mean, I have that feeling about things. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have accomplished when I was younger, but I had fear, and I was being safe, and I just didn't want to do anything that wasn't safe. And then people were kind of proud of me for choosing that safe path. And choosing the safe path, really, it hurt me in the long run, because I don't fit well into everyday society. I don't fit well in an office. People don't look forward to people like me coming to an office. It's an issue. So that choosing the direction in life, it's not easy. There's a lot of room for error. You've got this massive social proof model going on that says that you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to go get a house, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get a job, and those are even somewhat contradicting to one another. That they're telling you to go get an education and go get pregnant, but do it in the chronological order that we tell you to. Go get your education, then get pregnant, and then don't use your education while you're raised. It's just, to me, it's really confusing, and I can't imagine that if you sat down and thought about it, that it wouldn't be really confusing for you too. And I think that the biggest thing that people move towards is this perceived safety. I don't know that there is any real safety out there. I think when everybody's out of money, everybody's out of money. And I don't think that people are too far away from being out of money. I think a lot of times the more money somebody has, the more assets or liabilities that they have. And so if I'm 6 months from broke and somebody else makes 6 times as much as me, it's a possibility that they're 6 months from broke as well, and it would just be a different looking broke as it occurred. But once you're done, you're done. So the perceived safety is perceived safety, and I've watched many people that were doing much better than me at one time do much worse than me in the future, because something happened that trashed that perceived safety marker that they had. Where I'm going to go from here is, we're still trying to figure out what is your identity, and are you choosing, what are you perceiving, what are you choosing, what are you going after? From here, I have what I call a passion and reward system. And so you have to I think each individual person needs to do this audit on which one is stronger, the passion or the reward system. For example, if the passion of training in the martial arts is greater than the passion of the reward and people saying attaboy and things like that, I think you're going to go further. People that fall to a low order of reward, for example, unaccomplished people saying, man, I think you're great, I wish I could be like you, you do awesome. Maybe that's enough reward after 2 or 3 fights for somebody to just retire and live off of that at parties while they're drinking and telling people that they went out and fought, and then they can get their fame, and then the UFC can come on, and then you can talk about how, yeah, you could probably go there, but you made a decision not to, and now you have this apartment you can't afford, and that's your life. And that would actually be your tombstone right now, if you died and somebody had to write down what your current identity is. So which one's stronger, the passion or the reward system? And that one goes really well with the passion and the fear system. All right, so there's a focus and fear that comes after that. What is stronger, focus or fear, passion or reward? And you have to get these things in balance if you're going to become anything, if you're going to make massive strides to produce quickly things in your life that matter to you. So I think with those two topics that we tend to move to the one that's most emotionally linked, whichever one has the majority of emotions linked to it is the one that's going to be the stronger. And I think that these things are just accidental developments, and that we create these habits without realizing that we're creating them. And we talked about that a little bit in the beginning, but it goes into small thoughts and big thoughts, that most people sit around and think about small thoughts and they're unclear and they're scary, but the big thoughts are kind of discouraged from day one from as a youth, and they really don't fit the program. They're risky and they don't fit the narrative that most people have. And that's why you see so many people at the bottom and so few at the top. It is perceived somehow to be safer to go get a job that's almost going to guarantee and condemn your life into a personal living hell than it would be to risk doing something that could be great, and then at the very least you go get the job that condemns you to hell. But people take the reverse model, and I think what they don't realize that is a major problem is that you only have so much youth to do this with, and the next thing you know, your youth is gone, and now you're just an old person that has been safe their whole life. And since you were safe, you got no massive results out of this. You got no massive gains out of this. And what ends up happening with you is, if you didn't make it playing it safe, it's unlikely as an old person that you're going to continue playing it safe and make it big as well. And these models do exist where some people have done amazing things with very little money, but there's not a lot of people that have pulled that off. And they did a very intentional action to make this happen. There's no such thing as accidental millionaires. So it's an intentional action, whether you're buying a lottery ticket or saving money rigorously. There's no such thing as an accidental success in the martial arts. There's no accidental success in anything. There had to be this intention and this practice and this commitment and this dedication to the journey to end up getting you to that place where the accident could occur, where you become successful. So I think that most big thoughts, that they're just killed off. And I had a theory a long time ago, and the reason I think that they're killed off is through an event that I call the path to known accomplishment. And here's kind of a short story of the path to known accomplishment. Let's put us back 100,000 years ago, when we're smaller, little people, and we're in this world with giants and monsters everywhere. Let's say we have to go get water. So there's two of us, and we're going to go get water. We don't have a lot of numbers on our side. And everybody that's taken this path to the water has mostly come back. So we're looking at an 80% return rate. So we know that near water, there's where the predators are going to be. So we have to go down there. It's a little bit of a dangerous job, right? Leaving your protected home, that's the scary thing. That's the hard part. You don't really want to do it. And so you begin wandering down the path, and there's this new route that opened up that maybe it's a little shorter. You don't know for sure. You can't really see because you can't see down the path because it winds. But you look down that path, so you ask your buddy, like, hey, should we try this path? It might be faster. And your buddy says something along the lines, and it might lead directly to a tiger's den. But the consequence for failure back then was, if it did lead to a tiger's den, you would have the opportunity to witness your friend be eaten, probably alive, right before you were. So that risk for reward thing in a time when there is no leeway is, I think, what burnt into our wiring. So when I saw in the 90s, when there's this, into the 90s, and this collapse that kind of came in through 2008, for example, when you had all these tech millionaires stepping out into their front yards and blowing their brains out and overdosing on pills and killing themselves, is that they saw that they had taken what they perceived now to be the wrong path, and they're facing a tiger. I think that's what their wiring was giving them feeling of, is facing this tiger, this imminent death, and they chose to take their own life. When in reality, it's probably something they could have just written off in bankruptcy and just dealt with the humiliation for whatever that was worth and moved on. But that path of known accomplishment wiring is like the wisdom tooth and the appendix of the modern portion of our lives. We maybe don't need these things so much anymore as we once did. The concept and the idea of stepping off of this known accomplishment, being mom or dad or whoever, saying, hey, if you just do this safely, and you walk over and this is where you'll be. Maybe you will be there, maybe you won't be there, but it is the path of known accomplishment that creates that fear of stepping off the path. Now, there's also stupidity in that stepping off the path. So if we're going to get water and we're like, hey, maybe if we climb down this cliff, which is high percentage, we're going to fall and kill ourselves, and we can get the water faster. That wouldn't make any sense without like creating some kind of pulley system to lower ourselves down. So if there isn't thought put behind it, I agree that there is some stupidity that can occur, and you don't want to throw your eggs into a nonsensical basket. So as people come in to become fighters, they're going to be fighting this path of known accomplishment, but some people jump onto the path of known accomplishment of other fighters, and they go out and they accomplish great things. So are you using the wisdom tooth of thought, which is fear, to decide what your life is going to be? I think if you're going to be a fighter, it's going to expose whether you're a coward or not. And if you're not a coward, fear isn't going to be too big of a thing. But then there's this fine line between kind of like, in the military, I know you're not supposed to say this now, but there's this fine line between hard and retard. And I'm not talking about developmentally disabled people. I'm just talking about regular people that make bad decisions without thinking them through, which is technically slow thinking. So you don't want to go so hard that you put all your eggs in the fighter basket with no other income concept going on. I think that's silly, and I think it will create desperation. I'm a big believer in multiple revenue streams, and I think a lot of successful people out there would agree that a couple of different revenue streams would be good to make sure that you're catching slow times and down times, injury times, things like that. So becoming a fighter is definitely going to be a bit of an issue for human norms, because so few people can relate to what you're trying to do that they couldn't possibly give you advice. So a guy that I admire a whole bunch has said something once. He said, his name's Steve Harvey, you guys probably know who he is. How does a bird learn to fly? A bird learns to fly by jumping. He just jumps, and the bird that stays in the nest dies. So as humans, we'll stay in the nest for too long, and you kind of do wither away, and you don't really learn how to jump. But there needs to be this controlled incremental jump for humans, at least, and that's what I'm talking about with multiple revenue streams and developing skills that will help you to proceed if you want to become a fighter and grow as a fighter. You also have other avenues over here that are going to be harmonious in creating an environment that you're comfortable in, so you're not desperate for money. Because I see you're going to run into a lot of guys that are desperate for money in the fight world, and it's not the fight world that does it, it's the lack of thinking outside of the fight world that does this. So making sure that you have multiple revenue streams will help you to do what Steve Harvey says and jump. You have to really jump to learn how to fly. And even if you don't make it, then you got to jump again. And again, you just have to keep doing it until you learn how to fly, until you have those skill sets that are necessary. Now, what I think is great about being human is that we can do this incrementally, and you can have help from the community and people around you to make sure that that doesn't consume your life and destroy you. The thing is, I think that people incrementally just kind of move backwards and disappear into a place that they don't want to be, into a job that they're really not passionate about, and that if they could redesign their own life, if they had a genie in a bottle to design their own life, that they would certainly not choose the life that they're living in. I think they move on this slow descent to the middle of social norms, I guess would be what it is. Now, on a final kind of note with this, learning how to even take the step to walk into the gym to become something in the martial arts or something in life, it is not the path of the warrior to back off and react to fear. Now, let me clarify. If you charge the line of something that you know you can't survive, that's not necessarily a warrior unless you're saving somebody else's life. So if you run into a fire to save a piece of furniture, nobody's going to think that you were a hero or a warrior, but if you run in to save a baby, that's a very different thing. So I want you to take into consideration when I say this, what my true intention is by what I'm saying on what the path of the warrior is. I believe you can be the warrior even if you don't fight. But if you take only the social norm avenue, if you take only the perceived safe ways, you have no right to speak about anything else in life other than the line that you're standing in and how somebody else should stand in line with you for this perceived safety. Becoming the warrior is not what it was 1,000 years ago. Today, it's a very different thing. Oftentimes, it's a fight of how to break through the monotony of life. We've gotten it to be so safe now that it's monotonous. So the warrior doesn't only have to attack an enemy. I think that the warrior is somebody that fights to create a better life for themselves and for other people through the mental bombardment of information that we get online today that's telling us that we aren't doing things right, or how we're supposed to do things, or how we're supposed to look or feel or think. I think the warrior is somebody that can negotiate or navigate these waters without being sucked into the vortexes that are in them, and have a strong personality that other people will look to for guidance. That, I think, is a lot to do with the warrior today. Hey guys, I'm going to cut this one short today. I don't like making my podcast too long to where people want to lose interest in them. So I appreciate you listening to the Viking Valhalla podcast. It's brought to us by Sambo 1, MMA, kickboxing, Sambo, submission grappling. I am the head coach over at that facility, and I look forward to working with everybody that comes into the facility every day. I love to be there with you guys, and I love to do great things with your children to help them become the best image of themselves that they can become, and apply to them kind of that strict fun coach's expectation to becoming something great in their own mind, in their own life. We're located at 9975 Wadsworth Parkway in Westminster, Colorado. And we're kind of behind the Silver Mine Sub, so if you're local, feel free to stop by, check us out, take a look at the place. It's a 24-hour facility, 24-hour access. You can get in, lift weights, full weight room, full mat sessions. We have everything that you'd need to take this next leap to becoming a champion in your life, or even improving your health. And as we age, and this is something the Viking Valhalla project works on, is taking men from childhood to adults, walking into the final stages of youth, and trying to get as much out of our bodies and our minds as possible so we can continue to be productive and driven and guided and excited to live through our final days. It is also brought to us by Viking Valhalla Woodworks. Custom furniture and house painting is kind of what we do. If you want to check them out, look them up online, Viking Valhalla Woodworks. They're on Facebook as well. The Viking of Valhalla project, what we also have in there, which is kind of cool, we do some beard oils, we have some soaps on the way, we're running Viking camps and skill sessions, and that modern Viking man life skill thing that I just spoke about keeping male mentality and hormones in a good place via behavior, diet, and mentality. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a line at any time. I'm going to leave a number that you can send text questions to or text about any of the businesses, 720-207-3860. I'll do it more time, 720-207-3860. Feel free to drop a text at any time, ask a question, see what we're up to. Be happy to work you in. If you're interested in advertising on the Viking of Valhalla podcast, let me know. Reach out to me, and we'll see what we can get done for you guys. See if we can work out something that works for the both of us. Guys, thanks for stepping into my first ever live in-person video style podcast, and I appreciate your time and your loyalty for listening. Guys, if I missed something here, if you have any opinions, feel free to kick back some opinions yourself, and I'd like to take a look at them. Guys, thank you for your time. Stay Viking, stay strong.